Well, firstly, I'd just like to thank you, Obehi, for having me. My name is Shara Lewis Campbell, for those who don't know, and I am the co-founder of Beauty and the Beast Publishing, which is an international multi-award winning book publishing and media services company. And we specifically work with the underserved communities, those that are not, or I would say, atypically from the industry. So they're not don't have any connections within the industry, but are very keen to have their voices heard. So we're here to amplify those voices.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started into this episode.
And bring those writers into the writing industry, which we've been very, very successful to date. In the last, we are in our third year, so we're entering our third year. We're not quite on the third year yet. We don't hit that mark till the end of the year, thankfully. So we've sort of got this time to kind of make up and not play with, but definitely focus on the areas that we want to really sort of improve on between now and the end of the year. And within that time, we have successfully won 6 business awards, which I'm very proud of. I never thought I would be, to be honest. I mean, when we didn't have any, it didn't really matter, but now we have them. I'm really proud that we do. And we gained 5 of them just last year in 2022. Which I'm really sort of, really overwhelmed and quite pleased. So it's good to know that we're doing some great work and we're being acknowledged and achieving such accolades for the hard work that we do. And I can really say I've never known anything harder. But it's been a really enjoyable experience, and I'm pleased that we're here and still doing it.
That's good. That's great. That's great. It's good when sometimes somebody recognizes what you're doing and appreciate it. That is always lovely. It's always
Yeah.
a kind of a push for you to do more.
It is. I mean, especially like the first one that we received, seemed to be after that one, we seemed to receive quite a succession of them. But the first one that we received the same medal and award that another person who had also been in that project and that sort of a business event, they won it, and we had spent the whole day sort of acknowledging them and praising them for their achievement, to find out a bit later on that evening that we had also won the same thing. I just couldn't believe it, It was like so unexpected, but like so very much welcomed as well.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Thanks for the good work that you're doing. It is very
Thank
important.
you. Yeah.
I don't know if I told you the last time that this project, actually the one that we are working on, the African Diaspora project, the research that I carried out here in Verona, which had to do with the presence of Africans in northern Italy. At the end of the research, of course, we lasted for like 5 years, more or less. Actually, more than that, because right now I'm still collecting more information about the community, but no longer limited to the African diaspora in Italy, but sort of global in this sense. What I found is that it is very important that we share our experiences. It is important also that we recognize what is happening in the community, because it's not just about us as individuals, it's about the community. That is very important. So for the fact that people are coming to appreciate what you're doing, it is something that needs to be encouraged. Because I repeat again, if it is left for one person to do, we cannot do it. Because community is a people, it's a collective experience. So we need to be doing more in that area and be focusing on that area, that it is all of us that is involved in building this big machine that, of course, we are all part of. So I really want to appreciate those who appreciate your work.
Most definitely. I really agree with that. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because this was a conversation I had just most recently at a live business event that I did. And we spoke about that quite extensively. And that would very much align with the new focus of business that we're entering in as part of the current work that we do. And it's so important, like you say, to tell those stories as a collective, because we are part of the global majority. I mean, we are that. And as such, we are finding that those stories need to be told, the historical ones, the present ones, the futuristic ones that will happen. It's really, really important, but because the stories that have happened, we invented everything, and all those important stories do not get told in mainstream society. So it's important that we tell them, because those people are at some point will no longer be with us, and we won't be able to capture those stories if we don't start doing that work now. So it's really, really important, like you say.
Thank you for that. You see, you really touched something there. There was a time I interviewed somebody. Of course, this was in UK. I interviewed the person in UK. Then how the Obehi podcast work is that as I'm interviewing you now, when I finish and ask you, do you know some other persons who I can also interview to bring value to the community? Then of course you will tell me this person whom I will then connect to interview. Then I will move to the next one. That is how we connect. That is how we have a lot of people, hundreds of people that we have interviewed here. So after I've interviewed this individual who then connected me to another person, then of course I interview him. Then it was very sad for me to note that he called me after a couple of weeks that the person I've interviewed had died. So that was really painful for me. But if you come to think of it, just to agree with what you're saying, this is what life is. We are not living forever. Because if we make the mistake of thinking that the life revolves around us, then we will lose. But if we understood that it is not always about us, but it's not always about us as individual, it's about us as a group, as a collective, then we didn't lose anything. Because whatever it is that we have contributed, it is going on. Other people will continue the conversation. So in that sense, this community work is very important. It is important that we realize that it's not just about the individual, me, just me, 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 me. No, it is us, us, us. All right. Just now we are talking about the demographic that you are concentrating on, which is the African diaspora or the people of African descent. So I'd like you to spend some time on how do you engage with your people. No, before you get there, I would like to ask a question in the line of how do you see the value of books, of publication in the African diaspora community? This is very important for me before we move into the engagement.
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, our history just tells us exactly how important these stories are. Our history is one that is unique. We're spread all over the world, and in most places, we were there before many others. And as a result of that, again, those stories are so important to be shared. If people have access to that information, they should be welcomed within our society. Again, just going back to the mainstream of schooling and the fact that, these important lessons are not being taught even in our own generations, mainstream, and again, it's really important that we have our own collections of literature that we can refer to, for that added learning that we need, that's so vital for us. I mean, and it's slightly unfair the way that this works, because if you look at other other educational practices, if you go to other countries, it's predominant. And when you look at the Western educational system, which is where a lot of our diaspora are from or are living, very little of that is taught within those school, educational sectors. So I do think it's something that needs to be looked at. And again, it's not something that we probably need to ask, a mainstream society to indoctrinate into their practices. It's something that we should already have access to, as a diaspora, that we can refer to, as part of our added learning, if as well as an addition to our added learning, as it were, because we are taught these stories as we are growing up and as we're learning within our own individual households, etc. But again, there are gaps in that teaching as well, and in that learning, as from what we know of our history as well. Lots of us have had babies, when we've been considerably young, so we're still learning, but again, those materials need to be available for us to be able to draw from, at any time.
That is so
It's quite
important. So
crucial, actually. Very, very crucial, actually, to our way of life, our culture. It affects everything. It has a great impact. If we don't know where we're from, or we don't know where we're about, or what to avoid and where we should be, the direction we should be going, then we're very much lost as a people, and that hope there is lost. So we need to do something about that, and quite urgently.
how do you engage your demography? Okay, in this case now we are looking at maybe the United Kingdom because that is where you stay. Of course, I know your business also is in the United States, but of course, again, we are the global majority. So whatever we might find ourselves in the world, thanks to the magic of internet, we can connect. So we are not really limited to any particular location. As long as we are among the African diaspora, we can connect among ourselves. So how do you engage with the diaspora community in terms of book reading, or how should we engage in that line? So help me understand your take on that.
I'm really pleased that you've mentioned that, because there's a couple of ways, and something that we've been thinking about for a very long time when we first even set up our first business, Beauty and the Beast Publishing. And it was always going to be a framework for us to be able to sort of um, if you like, elevate, the work that we do, in that we can reach more of our particular demographic. So obviously, with our Beauty and the Beast, it's a profit-making business, and money is exchanged, etc. It runs like any other normal small business out there, and it does great work in serving the underserved communities. But for us, there was always got to be a very central and focal point for our own diaspora, that may be a part of the underserved communities, but for us, it's very much entrenched that we need to have our own Black organizations as well, our own Black communities. So what we have done is, as an extension of our nonprofit organization, The Shift, we have set up this new framework, which is called markofnations.com. And that is a framework where it's a global developmental infrastructure for Black community to discuss um, things that we need to resolve, in society, and go that step further than we have seen in the past from our Black leaders. And this is a framework where we're encouraging all and requesting for all Black leaders, policy writers, lawyers, entrepreneurs, technologists, anybody really, scientists, people from that sort of background that can come in and, lend their voice and their experience, to our demographic. And, and even from the political eras as well, we want to have that political voice, as the global majority, as you say, and be able to sort of look at writing our own policies for our own networks. As well as that, we want to look at also the pick industry as well, the prison industrial complex, and have a look at the oppression that takes place there, and what we can do about that to alleviate those kind of pressures that Black people face around the world as a community daily.
Thank you for that. That outreach for me sound very interesting because now if I want to go back again to the research that I've done here in Verona, northern Italy, uh, there is something that I think I really got out of the research, talking to people that have been here for like the past 40 years. So at one time, because now I'm reviewing the book, one of the book that one of the first book that actually publishing it, because now I want to republish it, so I need to do a second edition of it, of course. So I'm reviewing the materials, and now I'm thinking back to what they were telling me at the time, that some of them when they came in here in the city, okay, some of them were students. They saw what were the challenges of other people that were coming in who were students. When you come in as a student, you are in the university area. The kind of life you live is different from the one who comes in who never go to that environment. And so sometimes they even find some people who were analphabetic, so who didn't know how to read and write. So what they were doing among themselves were to organize reading exercises for these people, talking about their politics, sensitizing the people so that everybody sort of got to know what is going on at home, where they are coming from, and how to find their way around here. Well, to some individuals, that might not sound like a very huge project, but that is very important. It's sort of setting a foundation of how these individuals are going to find themselves in the society. Because life now is made up of the little choices that we've made. And the little choices that we've made is based of the information that we have. If we have the right information, we make little choice today. If we have to make another choice tomorrow, we make it based on the choice that we have made today, maybe based also on another right information. So that at the end of the year, we will have made a good enough information that we are moving towards the right direction in life. Otherwise, within the African diaspora community or within the immigrant community in general, there are a lot of traps that we can easily fall into to just get derailed, and we can end up in the jail, like you were saying, okay, maybe the industrial complex. So what I'm trying to say here is that this engagement, which are the best way that we could actually leverage to sort of bring this information to the people, to the mainstream, sort of, if that is even possible. Because like you were saying, maybe we might not be able to force it on them. But now we need to look at education as something that is also available to all of us. Because the children that are growing with us, we organize ourselves. We don't have a way of communicating. What are we communicating? What are we saying that can help us shape a better life for ourselves and the community? So, what would you like to say around that?
I would like to say that to the younger generation, especially those that feel very despondent, a lot of the resources that were available to them in the past are no longer here. However, I feel like a framework and a nonprofit organization such as Mark of Nations is actually a platform that can be used for all people from our community around the world, where we can share experiences and start to build our own infrastructures and networks, forming our own social economic groups as well. We need our own political systems, we need our own prison industrial complex, because if you look at that in particular today, especially when you see it's such a disproportionate amount of Black people that enter that infrastructure, a lot of them, or the majority of them, are going in and are coming out even worse than they went in to begin with, and that is going to affect us for generations to come. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in every area of our infrastructure. If you look at other communities, they seem to have it, or seem to give the outward appearance of having it more together than we actually have it, as our own community. And that's something that we need to urgently do something about, especially when you look at these new Jim Crow laws that are coming out, in America. I mean, they only need to sort of set the trend before other countries start to follow, which will have a great impact on us if we don't start rebuilding and looking at some of these infrastructures and how we're going to be able to see or work through them. It's really important.
Mhm. Uh, yeah, that a prison industrial complex is something that become important again. But of course, then it depends on how we want to look at the argument, the injustice that is in place that sort of help people to just make a one-way direction to follow it in that place. That is where you end up. And then what happened when you are in there, when you are inside the prison? What happened to your life? Does it end there? One time I was interviewing a correctional officer in Jamaica, whom we were sharing idea of how does the prison system even work? Because somehow some people believe that if you commit a crime, you are condemned. But no, that is not how the society set it up. Prison is not for condemned people. Prison is a place where you sort of where you can have a time to reflect. Because now the society have a code, have rules that you need to follow for there to be peace, for there to be order in the society, for the system to function. Because it's a machine. You are just a little boat in your end. For the machine to keep working, keep grinding, you need to play according to the rule that is set up for you. If you break out of that rule, if the society doesn't correct you, then you corrupt the society. For that purpose, the society set up a correctional facility, which is a prison can be part of this. So that now that you do something that is against the rule, the society send you to a place where you can sort of have a rethink of what you have done, and then come out better and still be useful to the society. Otherwise, they could just hang you there and shoot you if that was the solution. But that is not the solution. The solution is that the prison was supposed to be opportunity for you to have a second chance. That is why there you go to school, there you learn something, so that you can come out and also become useful. So how do we marry this to maybe the kind of message we are preaching in the diaspora community? And how do we even go into the prison system to sort of have a dialogue with what is going on there? I remember, for example, here in Verona, at one time, I've gone into the prison here to do a small documentary with an association here in the Verona city, because I was interested, really. And of course, I had a chance to I have the chance to be able to go in there, and then I interviewed some people some inmates that were in there, and what I saw there were human beings, were people who needed the connection, who needed to talk, who needed to have engagement, and of course, some of them are going to come out of there and become useful again to the society, like what I was saying before. But now, if we look at it again from another end, we'll see that most of the people that are there, if your parents are here, if you have everybody here who are going to become a sort of succor for you, they encourage you, they talk to you, that is one case. But what about the hundreds of thousands of African diaspora, immigrants that are coming to Europe who do not have parents, they don't have sister, they don't have brother here, they are alone. If you are in prison, who talks to you, who writes you a letter, who make a telephone call, who disturb the prison warder, I want to see somebody. So some of these individuals, they are almost like abandoned. They remain there. So we cannot pretend that there are no consequences for that. There are consequences for that, both from the level of, from a psychological point of view and some other area, mental health and all of it. So as the African diaspora community, I think we should care about the consequence of that. But how do we address it? How do we go beyond the prison wall to sort of have a dialogue with the people that are in there so that we can talk?
I think that there's lots of ways in which that can be addressed. I think as a community, we need to be deciding on what our laws and what matters to us, as a people. The current laws that are there are very much designed against us. If you look at around the world, at a lot of the prison constitutions, etc., they're not designed for us. And as you mentioned there, in very few cases are people going in and coming out and doing better. What we can do is continue, companies like ourselves who have successfully, published incarcerated authors, or those that are awaiting release, or those that have been released even that were incarcerated. We've successfully been able to publish 16 of those authors and want to continue with that work. But I think it's a much more of a collaborative effort. I think that we've seen that the prison system as it is currently isn't designed for us, and it doesn't actually work for our community. It's actually very much oppressed against us, and for the families of those people that are in those systems as well. It has done very little to better anything, to be honest. And when you look at it now and you look at all the corruption, etc., and the contraband, that's being brought in, by the administration staff that work there. And I think there also needs to be like a wider conversation, about, why is so much of the administration Black people that are working there? Isn't there something that should be, isn't a change of mindset needed? I mean, it reminds me very much of the oppression and our history, of slavery, of Black on Black crime even, it's as horrific as that, to know that even continues in this day and age. I mean, it's something that we should really be looking at to redress. And I think that a political voice will definitely help us in that area as well. And I think we need to get our own framework. I think for everyone that's ever been inside a prison or found themselves in that sort of situation, when they come out, there should be immediate access to for a mental health assessment as well, to see how, not for mental health purposes, but to see how they have been impacted mentally. I think that there are many ways, like I say, and that's just a few of them, of which we can engage and try to make things better. I think that if we longer term seek to take on the issues of those that have fallen within that system from our own demographic, I think we can do a much more successful job than the one that's currently being served at present.
Thank you so much. And hello, brother. Hello there, little one. How are you? Yeah, welcome to join us.
This is my grandson.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
his name's King, and yeah, he thought he would just join us. So
Yeah,
he was
welcome.
sleeping earlier.
Yeah, welcome, King. How are you, dear? Beautiful. So
He's
cute, so
doing
cute.
well. He's not very well today.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
welcome to join us.
Thank you.
That is lovely. That is lovely. All right. Now, what about the reading culture? What do you say when you look at the diaspora community? Because now, book is food for mind. In that you are going to get information, and it's one of the best way that we have known that human history have known is writing books. So, how do you look at the reading culture in the diaspora community? Is it encouraging? Is it something that you, because as a publisher, it is something that at least you care about, I know. So tell me, how do you see the reading culture in the diaspora community?
I think that there's a lot that could be greatly improved there. I mean, I don't feel like our books get the best selection, and I don't think that we often get the best support from the Black community. Maybe it's a case of the fact that many people don't have time to read even, but I mean, there are ways that you can get around that, whether it be an audio book, or, an audio, or reading a book online, etc., is another way of reading. So I feel like, we need to change our mindset as well. There is a lot more to be gained from reading a Black book from someone that you can relate to, rather than a lot of these, say, reality shows, that we see, or celebrity books that are produced. I mean, they're not going to help our diaspora very much, and these popular books that really don't have anything inside them that can really help our diaspora. So I would suggest, more Black reading, and, a lot more insight into that kind of readership. Again, Mark of Nations, and we'll definitely be able to advise, and advise, and definitely, be able to help promote, the type of reading that we should be looking at in terms of our diaspora, if we want to sort of look at some of the things that are going on currently today, and what we need to sort of be tackling, in order to make things better for our own diaspora. And I would say, and when not doing that, I would definitely refer you to Beauty and the Beast Publishing, where you can actually tell your own stories, or you can read some of the stories that we've actually written as well. Myself and my co-founder are authors within our own rights. I believe he's on here, my co-partner, Andrew Foster. He's probably on his 12th book, I would say, at the moment. So he's got a budget of his own. We've got quite a large selection, and I also have 9 books of my own out as well. I'm currently trying to finish my 10th. So yeah, I would definitely steer you in that direction, because we definitely have good quality reading. I mean, in particular, my business partner has written 5 poetry collections, and he's about to publish the 5th, but all 4 of his previous collections are being taught as part of the national curriculum in a range of universities in the United States. So they're definitely worth reading, and are very good quality material. I'd certainly encourage more reading within our own diaspora.
Thank you for
definitely.
that. Thank you for that. We need more content into the diaspora community, and thank you for those of you that are writing, that are contributing, and that are
Mhm.
creating content. We need it. We need it.
Yeah, we
All
we
right.
have we have a
Yeah.
lot of content. I think that
Mhm.
we need to have more content, especially for today's society that they can relate to. But there's plenty of old content. I just think it needs to be promoted more and a lot more marketing as well, and a lot more interest.
All right. So how do you embark on book marketing as a publisher? Because now you have about 9 of your book that are already out there. You're writing your 10th. Now,
Yes.
for maybe a writer out there in the diaspora community who want to put his or her work out there, you might want to know some tip and strategy on how to market the book. What do you have to say about that?
I think it's very, very important, and I think there's lots of ways in which you can do that. Whether it be word of mouth, continuously promoting the book as early on as you can as well is really, really important. We're very lucky in the fact that we don't just write our own books; we also write for a wide selection of people around the world as well. So our books are already out there internationally, and whether it be by accident, but I would like to say it's probably more intentional without even doing too much marketing, just doing the normal standard amount of marketing and promoting, whether it be, 2 to 3 times a week, and even if we have quiet weeks, we're always approached, people always want to engage with us. And we also have some really good associations as well that we are linked with that also help. So it's also very good networking as well is very important. And I think just having a passion about, doing what you do, people just put the word out, somehow the word gets out. I'm very surprised when, I get an influx, my inbox stays busy, I can't clear it enough, for the amount of interest, that people have in the work that we do. I suppose in however we engage, whether it be in this setting or in any other, people can see that we're very genuine about the work that we do. And I think that it's within itself really stands us in good stead. I'd also like to say as well that I think that our work is very much, one that's quite divine, and quite anointed, and that's something that we kind of, sing true to. Our strapline is, two souls, joined by divine connection. So that's how we view things, and I suppose with that, that's kind of aligned with us and our message. And we're very genuine about the work that we do, and we want to do much more of it as well in creating that legacy for around the world. We want to be a part of those stories, in helping to fulfill them. And we also, want, those authors and writers as well to be a part of our legacy as well in building better and more content, like you say, and improved readership for our demographic.
Thank you for that. All right. Now, what would be your encouragement to maybe a beginner's writer in the diaspora community, very briefly to conclude the conversation?
So I would say one of the best places to start is to contact us at Beauty and the Beast Publishing. We have our own Writers Academy, which is called Snazzy Drafts Writing Academy. And there we teach those that are really interested in doing this for a living. We teach them the skills of being able to write books. From a blank piece of paper, all the skills that they would need to be able to fulfill writing a novel or a book, or any type of book it is that they desire to write, and tell their story. So we offer that. We that includes 12 jot down sessions, we call them, and at the end of it you would have the finished draft. And from there, we would supply you with the editing and proofreading as part of our service. And we would also create you and the author and writer. They'd be an inspiring author at that time, but we would create them into their own independent author. And we look at authorship as well and independent authoring as a business. So we would teach them those skills. We would teach them as well the very basics to do with marketing and promoting. And if they are also if they're also interested in being able to do this in the future for their own community, and to serve other people in the way that we do, we would also encourage to show them how to do the publishing side of it as well.
Thank you so much, Shara. It has been a pleasure talking with you here. Thank you.
And you, from me and my grandson, King.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I have 2 guests today. This is a conversation of 3. Beautiful.
It is. Thank you so much for having us, Obehi. I look forward to speaking to you very soon.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewanfo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.